Will lab-grown meat be tiny or huge by 2030? To answer this, let's look at the technology challenges, explore which companies to watch, ask how much shoppers will love it, show jobs that will be hired, and end with making a prediction of how big it will be on a scale of 1 to 10. If you're new here, my name's Simon Darling. This Life in 2030 channel is to help you be more prepared for the years ahead. Meet Mike the farmer. He grows meat today in the traditional way, and meet Josh, the boss of the lab-grown meat startup EatJust. He's disrupting Mike's world. A suitable prop for this technology solution is wearing this lab coat. Maybe, but I'll leave it off. By 2030, Josh needs technology that can address the problem of creating starter cells. The good news is this is already solved. On Mike's farm, he gets his starter cells through breeding. For example, a hen laying eggs. How does Josh do it? It's simple. For chicken, take a feather, yes, just a feather, extract some cells, that's it. It's similarly straightforward for beef and pork. Technology is then needed to grow the meat. Although harder, this one will be solved by 2030. To grow meat, Mike feeds the young animals grains, and in case of a chicken, it takes 4 months to be fully grown. How does Josh grow meat? He takes the starter cells and feeds them the same type of food that Mike feeds the animals, but into a bioreactor. It's a technology that's been used for years in beer distilleries. The mix needs a growth serum. Currently, this is controversial, using stem cells from cow fetuses. Thankfully, there is a non-animal version in development. This process can take as little as 2 weeks to grow chicken meat. Technologies for good taste may be solved by 2030, but it's a hard nut to crack. Mike delivers great taste because animal fat and muscle give meat texture and taste. Josh and others are working hard to develop technologies that mimic the natural structure of meat. In December 2020, EatJust sold the first commercially available lab-grown chicken, and this customer shows they have technology to produce good-tasting meat.
Wow. That is amazing. Woo!
But producing great-tasting chicken nuggets is easier than growing a great-tasting steak. Aleph Farms is a startup whose technology is making huge strides in this area. This steak, as you can see, has the different types of cells needed. The technologies for mass production of lab-grown meat are solved. Mike produces in huge sheds of chickens that are then sent for meat processing. How does Josh scale up? It's straightforward. He builds factories with lots of bioreactors in them. He already has facilities in the US and Singapore. At the end of this video, I make a prediction of where lab-grown meat is on a scale where 1 is tiny and 10 is huge. From a technology point of view, because the technologies needed are solved by 2030, it points to lab-grown meat being huge by then. Now we look at companies. Is a tie a suitable prop for this section? Not really. People including me don't wear them for jobs these days. If you have better suggestions, put it in the comments. Lab-grown meat will be huge if there are unicorns, startup companies that have a valuation of more than $1 billion, and when there's plenty of big established companies that are active, represented by an elephant here. Josh's company EatJust is a unicorn. He is a great visionary for the lab-grown meat industry, a bit like Elon Musk is for space travel and electric cars. Josh also gets stuff done. The first commercially available lab-grown meat anywhere was his, from a restaurant in Singapore. Here's a copy of the receipt. Part of this success came from pioneering efforts with regulators, working with the Singapore food regulator for 2 years to get approval that it is safe to eat. He's also, in my opinion, smart at marketing, choosing the name Good for the meat. It appeals to those that will buy it, meat that is good for the environment, good for animals, and good for you. Clever. If I could buy shares in EatJust, I would. Memphis Meats is a unicorn valued at $2 billion. Uma Valetti is the CEO. He produced the world's first lab-grown meatballs and the first duck. Duck is a big deal because they eat so much of it in China. Velletti's attracted lots of great investors, including Richard Branson, who stopped eating meat in 2014, and Kimball Musk, Elon Musk's brother, and on the board of Tesla and SpaceX. Mosa Meat's well on its way to becoming a unicorn. Its chief science officer, Professor Mark Post, is a founding figure of the lab-grown meat industry. Back in 2013, the billionaire co-founder of Google, Sergey Brin, approached Post to make the world's first hamburger using Post's technique for growing muscle fibres from cow stem cells. Here you see the public tasting of it in London. It cost $335,000 for the first burger. They are now focused on bringing burgers to market in 2022 for less than $8. Big companies are also active, including fast food players McDonald's and KFC, and the meat processor Tyson. They're learning to sell non-traditional meat products with the hugely successful plant-based burgers, and these companies are investing in startups. Tyson, for example, is an investor in Memphis Meats. There's lots of unicorns in the making and plenty of big company activity. On this basis, lab-grown meat is definitely heading towards being huge. If you're enjoying this, hit the subscribe button for other predictions about life in 2030. I've got my shopping bag out because for lab-grown meat to be huge, there need to be lots of shoppers who will absolutely love it. When I worked at Skype, it was such a huge success because it got a massive 5 stars for giving people international phone calls absolutely free. Lab-grown meat gets 5 stars for being much better for the environment. 15% of global greenhouse emissions today are from animal agriculture, with at least 4% from meat production. These emissions are from huge amounts of methane from farting cows, growing the crops to feed the animals, and from Amazonian deforestation. In contrast, Josh's lab-grown meat produces up to a massive 90% less emissions than farmed meat. This is because he produces no methane, requires no deforestation, and converts the feed inputs more efficiently than Mike can. Josh's lab-grown meat gets 5 stars for animal welfare because it requires far fewer animals to be killed. Today, Mike and the meat industry worldwide kill a lot of animals. Every day, 130 million chickens and nearly 1 million cattle. Not one single animal dies when you eat meat made by Josh once he's developed the animal-free growth serum that he's working on. Winston Churchill, of all people, would be cheering Josh on. Way back in 1931, he said, "One day we shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat just the breast or wing." Lab-grown meat gets 5 stars for being healthy compared to today's meat. Today, huge amounts of antibiotics are used in meat production, and some meats are unhealthy, containing things like saturated fats. Josh's meat will be super healthy. A bit like we have Diet Coke, we will have Diet Beef and Diet Chicken. For example, steaks that are low in cholesterol and grown without any antibiotics. Some people definitely won't like lab-grown meat and will give it a 1-star review saying it's not natural, real meat. It isn't meat and shouldn't be called meat, they'll say. The Minnesota government has already passed legislation outlawing lab-grown meat being labelled as meat. Cultured meat or clean meat is the term that the industry seems to be settling on. Given there is plenty for people to love, on this basis we're at the huge end of the scale. Now we look at jobs. Is a jacket the right prop for this section? Ready for a job interview? If lab-grown meat is huge, then there's going to be lots of jobs hired and fired. Farmers like Mike will be fired, but population growth means there is demand to keep both him and the lab-grown meat industry busy for a long time to come. On the hired side, there's 15 job openings shown on LinkedIn at the time of recording that Josh is hiring for. Josh needs a team and his vacancies are across many job functions. Marketing is hiring for a social media specialist, 5 technical team vacancies including stem cell process and food scientists. Manufacturing has roles on the production lines, legal hiring for a contracts attorney, and IT for a head of global IT and security. And although not being hired at the moment, there's a growing team in finance, HR, customer service and sales. It's well worth looking at LinkedIn if you're interested in getting a job in this sector. I was fortunate to get into the internet industry early with a job at eBay. I've benefited from that ever since. These particular vacancies are in San Francisco and Minnesota in the US, and don't be disheartened if that's not where you live. The lab-grown meat industry itself is global. For example, Mosa Meat is headquartered in the Netherlands and Aleph Farms is in Israel. I'd encourage you to set up some job alerts. If you're interested in a job in this sector, click on the link for a video on finding great jobs for life in 2030. Because there's plenty of jobs being hired and fired, from a jobs point of view, lab-grown meat is at the huge end of the scale. Now we've covered all 4 sections, it's time for me to make a prediction. Because the technology is solved, there are unicorn companies, there are great reasons for people to love the product, and plenty of new jobs being hired. On a scale of 1 to 10, lab-grown meat is at the huge end of the scale by 2030 at an 8. To get yourself more prepared for life in 2030, sign up for my Life in 2030 newsletter and click above for more predictions, including one on home robots. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.